fluffy buds. Ain't nobody proud of that. Let's fix it. How to grow dense, chunky nugs every time. But first, check this out. New product alert. Canna's got some root plugs. If you don't know Canna already for the badass cocoa, you be the fool if you ain't growing Canna cocoa. But their new root plugs are awesome. The reason I dig them is they have the perfect moisture to aeration retention. It's really hard to overwater these guys. They keep just the right amount of air in there to keep your clones happy. Ooh, Grambo's showing the root form there. I love to see that. When you pull your clones and you got roots like that, you are a happy man. This is a great base plug to go right into cocoa, go right into pea. So check out Canna's new root plugs. Shout out. All right. Back to the show. Everybody loves dank nugs. Let's get into this first point. And it can't be spoken about enough. Light intensity is huge. And yes, it is 2025. It is harder than ever to buy a light that won't grow any day. Like back in the day, Scotty, the UFOs or the shitty LEDs.
Right.
But let's get into caveats of it quickly as far as dialing in your light and having the right intensity.
Yes, you need a really strong light during flower. We talk about how you actually have to raise it up or dial it up because you're doing less hours than you were in veg. So, man, you need strong light for flower, man. That's what do we say, about 800 to 1,000 ppfd?
And when Scotty's saying strong light, exactly. I mean, you could grow great flower in a 2x2 with a 100-watt light, but you have to have that ppfd dialed. Which is distance from canopy. There's cheaper meters these days. You can use your phone. Photon app is a great way to gauge it and give you an idea. And I tell you, most modern LEDs come with a knob to dial it in too. So even if you want to get close to the canopy, you can have a higher ppfd just by turning it down. But really, this knowledge, this number has been one of the biggest learning factors for me in the past year of my growth.
And it is the biggest factor for growing dense buds, is having plenty of light. Light is the energy for it to photosynthesize. So yeah, the more energy you give it, as long as it has food and the right environment, man, it's going to grow dense.
All right, let's take it to, the details in environment. Dare I say VPD, which I don't want to scare anybody away. This is controlling your temperature and your humidity. And there's different parameters for different phases of your growth.
Hey, this is I've been thinking about this and learned a little bit about it. VPD also is about transporting how fast that the water goes up the plant and out the plant. And you want it to go at a steady rate so it can deliver those nutrients to the plant as the water's going up. You get it too fast and you get this nutrient imbalance where the nutrients just can't keep up with the amount of water that is evaporating out of the plant or transpiring out of the plant. And it causes imbalances, man.
And a great way to find info on this, just quickly, just Google Pulse Grow VPD. They have charts for all phases of growth and some great information on it. Getting into the nitty gritty of leaf surface temperature, if you will. But, VPD helps not only with just dense buds, but in latter part for flower, potentially bud rot. And, if you have it dialed in, you shouldn't be hitting those parameters, having forbid you have dense buds and then get bud rot.
And by the way, if you don't follow the show or if you haven't been with us for a long time, VPD is vapor pressure deficit. It's a fancy way of saying where temperature and humidity combine. And the idea is that you don't want so much humidity on the plant that it can't breathe, that it can't off gas, because all that's coming from the roots and out the stomata and the leaves. If you keep your VPD correctly, deficit of vapor pressure, the vapor pressure can evaporate off or transpire off, I'll say. It's a big deal.
Yeah, it looks really scary there in this chart, but it's not too hard to follow. You basically want to be in that green zone.
Yeah, it's not scary at all. The one side says temperature and the other one says humidity, and there's a green zone, and yeah, go like that where they intersect, and you go, 76 degrees. All right, man.
It looks like Doppler radar to me. Next point. You haven't heard us talk about this yet, because when people don't have the right buds, the first thing they think about is bloom booster, up my nutrients, get my bloom additive. Nutrients do play a role in the latter part of buds. So let's give some tips on that. One would be, what's up with people think about phosphorus, but are you thinking about nitrogen?
Yeah, too much nitrogen. That's why you have to cut down. You still need nitrogen in bloom, but you don't need that spike like you need in veg. In veg, you need a lot more nitrogen than you need phosphorus and potassium. It starts slowing down. You'll get real loose buds. If you just feed like Miracle Grow, that's a high nitrogen Miracle Grow the whole way through, it will give you loose buds because nitrogen promotes growth.
Be aware of your strain. I don't want to say, hey, don't use a bloom booster. I worked at many hydroponic stores back in the day, so I knew how much it was a huge selling point because people always went there. But if you know your strain and you're running a good base nutrient, follow the feed chart, having success, trying to add a little phosphorus to nudge it a little bit can have great effects. Just don't go wasting your money on stuff if you don't need it.
If you're using a 1 part, then yes, by adding P and K booster, you're changing the ratios, which is what you want. For the most part, you're doing that when you're using bottled nutrients. You're changing the amount that you mix. So you should, in theory, I don't see why you would need a bloom booster, but that's just my thoughts on it.
Because it sounds good. It sounds sexy. It's a booster, man. They should call it a Bloom Turbo. I'd buy more of it.
What was the most expensive bloom booster you ever seen? It was like $500 a gallon, maybe something like that. They were expensive, and you can't help but think it was a profit center for them.
Yeah. Quick few bonus grow tips we have here. Silica is also a great additive in bloom up to a certain point. Some growers use it all the way through. I use it all the way through about week 7 or 6 on a 9-week strain.
Silica is deposited. Sorry, I just got to interrupt. Silica is deposited in the cell walls. It's what the plant's made out of. You can't flush silica out, but it is great for growing heavy buds. The plant, these things are alive, and there's a whole ecosystem. And when the plant is bending down with a giant bud and it's about to break the stem, it goes, no, don't send any more energy to that bud. That bud's big enough, and it's going to be a problem if it gets any bigger. So it redirects that energy. Silica makes those stems really strong. So it says, this thing's not going to break. Send more to it. Bigger buds.
This may be more of a newbie tip quickly, but don't harvest too early. I've been there. Damn, that plant had another 10 days actually. So be patient, be scoping, and know when your strain's finished.
Sesquiterpenes. Doesn't sound like something Joey Diaz would say. No, but seriously, a lot of the terpenes, those earthy and musky ones, I was just learning about this very recently, but come on at the end. So yeah, you don't want to harvest too early. You would not get that complex, nuanced taste.
Lastly, whole other subject, but be topping, be training, man, and be defoliating and be lollipopping. There's a lot of trimming that goes on the first month of flower, especially taking out that main coal. Instead of having one big dense bud, be nicer to have a whole bunch of dense buds across the canopy spot, pushing that plant energy across the canopy.
Yeah, going in veg and just making sure exactly right, diverting that energy to the buds. So you're not to get all that larf on the bottom. All that is stealing energy as it goes up the plant to that giant cola.
Dig. Last but not least, I know I keep saying this, I can't forget genetics. Let me throw genetics in quickly. Some genetics aren't as dense as others. I've seen a pheno hunt of 1,000 plants, and the variety, the difference between the ones that were picked for the attributes of tight flowers versus the others, genetics are a huge role factor.
Yes, absolutely. And this is the biggest factor, actually. Why do we start with that one, dude?
Sometimes I just remember as they're token along, but let's get some comments, man. I'd like to know what your tips and tricks are for dense buds, and leave some comments below and how you do it. What's your bike style?
I'm going to comment, man. You need a new microphone, dude. All right, come on, man. If you dug this video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Talk about this one with another grower and check out the other couple videos YouTube's recommending.